luckily they don't need to use the weapons, but they've got them just in case, and because people do get desperate in a desperate situation like that. So the book covers some moral dilemmas as well as a fun adventure. So it has different layers to it that I think people even might read it a second time to really understand everything that's going on in the book.
Well, without divulging a lot, can you share a little bit about it? Any part of the story without, divulging anything really much.
Without giving a lot of spoilers.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, so the premise of the book is that there's a colonel in the government who is very high up in the government who learned of this asteroid storm coming to Earth, and he took measures on his own to build underground cities to protect what he calls the few and the fortunate. And I would say that he doesn't have a lot of faith in humanity. So he and his small group keep it very quiet. In fact, they take some very extreme measures to make sure that nobody finds out what's going on, because there happens to, as these asteroids are coming to Earth, there's some early arrivals, and the just like we're seeing all these close pass-bys, and possibly increasing. Well, the activity of asteroid impacts was increasing, so they have a small group that runs around the country and around the world to keep them quiet, keep them secret, and control the news. They take other extreme measures to control the news and the ability of people to be able to search the skies. So a lot of the telescopes get shut down, budget cuts and things like that. So they're really able to keep it secret. And our protagonist, basically, he wants to get a grant because he has an idea that this may be happening. He's trying to get a grant funded so he can do some more research, and he gets invited to a special seminar to present his grant study. And instead of presenting the grant, he's kidnapped by this group that's trying to keep everything secret because they don't want any scientists to spill the beans. So he gets kidnapped and finds out the plot to let everybody die while the few and the fortunate survive. So that's kind of the opening premise.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, wouldn't that would happen? Seriously, if put it this way, if a major thing went down, realistically, I really think the government wouldn't tell us. I really think they would let us go on day to day. If it was like a near life, let's say extinction on this planet. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll tell you what, the government would go underground and the rich would go underground, and hopefully they would think they would maybe survive to start over again. Would they sit there and tell the population to go out of control? I don't think so. That's just my feeling. I could be totally wrong, but I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be the president of the United States or the premier of some other country and sit there and say, well, on such and such day, everything on Earth, on top of the Earth, is going to be destroyed. The only way you're going to survive is go underground in a fallout shelter.
Yep, that's right.
Well, not everybody has access to one.
No, you can't build. There aren't the time or resources to build underground facilities to hold. Just in the U.S., 330 million people. That's a pretty big hole. So you have to limit it. You have to keep it secret, and you have to limit it. And I agree. I think that would be a very likely scenario.
Well, it's also funny when Ronald Reagan was president. He, again, there was a lot of tension between the Soviet Union and the United States. Maybe like a nuclear war. And he made a tape that got out. Basically, it said if we were attacked, you need to dig a hole about 6 feet down, remove some doors off your house, and put 3 feet of dirt on it, because it's supposedly 3 feet of dirt will absorb some of the radiation, and go in the hole and stay in there. And I saw that years and years ago, and I was looking at that. Okay, you're going to dig a 6-foot deep hole. You're going to big enough for you and your family, and you're going to put doors on top of it and put dirt in it. To me, it sounds like you're just putting yourself in a grave.
Yeah, 6 feet under.
Yeah, that's the first thing in my mind. I mean, because again, if there was a nuclear strike and you came out, the radiation is going to get you sick and probably kill you anyway, let alone is being under 3 feet of dirt going to protect you from a nuclear blast? I don't think so.
Yeah, not if you're close. I mean, yeah, if you're far away and, you can stay in there for a week or two, you might be okay, but yeah,
well, how are you going to get air in that little hole?
Maybe something a little more protective.
Yeah, how would you get air in it? Let alone have enough food and whatever you have to do in that hole. Yeah, it's as bad as when I don't know your age, but hey, in case there's a nuclear war, go under your desks in school.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Yeah,
duck and cover.
Same way if an asteroid hits, don't worry about it. Go under your kitchen table. That's the strongest part.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, how would you survive an asteroid impact? And I said, well, don't be where it hits.
That, or if you're going to be where it hits, get a nice bottle of vermouth and drink it.
Yeah, but even then, you need to be underground. So you need to be, in a subway tunnel or in a basement or in, underground parking garage, somewhere underground. And the worst part isn't the impact, unless you're right at the point of impact. If it's a 500-foot asteroid that hit, that's mostly iron, it's going to create a crater about 2.3 miles in diameter and be about 1,400 feet deep. And I know this because I used an application from a website from Purdue University called Impact Earth. So anybody can go to Impact Earth and create their own asteroid attack and check out the size of the crater and all the things that happen. So if you're 6 miles away from the impact, you don't need to worry about the initial jolt because you're going to feel only about a 6.3 earthquake. Some chimneys might fall or something like that. But the asteroid's not done with you yet. You have 29 seconds before the airburst hits. And the airburst is going to come at 1,000 miles per hour. It's going to wipe out every wood frame house. It will knock over multi-story buildings, collapse bridges and overpasses, and wipe out 90% of the trees at 6 miles. So you better stay in the hole, and you need to stay a little bit longer because 45 seconds after the impact, the ejecta starts falling, the fallout, the dirt and everything out of ejected out of the crater starts to fall. And chunks can be up to 35 feet big. So you don't want to be out there while chunks of earth are falling on people and buildings and their cats. So you need to stay in your hole for a little while, but you better have a hole. Otherwise, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. It reminds me when I was in the service, there was a bunch of, my comrades or, members, right, would take their M16s and fire it up in the sky, just straight up, just for fun. And you get like 5 or 6 of them do it. And then you sit there because they've been drinking, their beer. It came in the white cans. And you sit there and say, do you realize you shoot something up, it comes back down?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, why don't you just shoot each other? And I ran away and got out of the area and got under, protection because I knew what was going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I lived near Los Angeles, and when I first came here in the 80s, I lived up in North Hollywood for a time. And, 4th of July, a lot of Ecuadorians lived up there, and they had guns. And they would shoot them over the air 4th of July. And every summer, somebody ends up, getting a bullet coming right down on top of their head. Somebody would die almost every summer. So hopefully they don't do that so much anymore. But you're right. What goes up must come down.
Oh, yeah. And I was talking before you came on. There was a lady a year or so ago that got hit by a meteorite and killed instantly because, imagine getting hit in the head with a meteorite. It is not going to stop at the head point. It's going to go to, it can't go anymore.
They keep going. That's right. That's right. Yeah. If in the prologue of the book, there's a snippet of an article from the Telegraph newspaper. I forgot what year it is, 2012 or something like that. And it talks about the scientists that discovered an asteroid that blew up in the atmosphere 12,000 years ago or something like that. And it exploded into very small bits of meteorites, so small they call them spherules. So they're like little teardrops because they're superheated, little teardrops of glass or rock, and they found it spread over 10,000 square miles.
Oh, yeah.
So can you imagine having an asteroid explode in the atmosphere and basically shotgunning everything with tiny little pellets for 10,000 square miles? And it wouldn't stop at, your brain, going through your head or whatever. They probably stop, a couple feet down below ground.
Oh, yeah.
Once the Earth can stop them.
Yeah, there's been cases where people were driving and they survived, but all of a sudden they had a meteorite, a little piece of one, right, go through the roof of their car and go right down through the floorboard and into the ground. That's how much force they have.
That's right. That's right. And that happens many times in the book Asteroids. Lots of people get wiped out by spherules. So it's kind of fun to kill people that way when you're a writer.
Well, you know what?
When you're writing.
It's put it this way. It's a more humane way to die because I tell you what, you won't feel a thing. That's how fast it is.
Yeah, you don't feel it, and you don't even know you're dead for a while.
Now, we need to go on break for the station. Then we have James doing, the Earth News. So you got about an 8-minute break to go get a cup of java, a cup of tea, or what have you. So don't hang up. Then we'll have you back for the last half an hour. And I know James has some questions to ask you also after the news. So stay tuned.
All right, I'll be ready.
And make sure you check out his book by Mke McCoy. And I tell you what, if you're into asteroids and you read it, I'll tell you what, it's really informative. It's interesting. It's scary. And I haven't got to the other parts yet, but I tell you what, it makes you wonder a lot of things. We'll be back with Mke McCoy after the news. So stay tuned.
You and I were living in the strangest of times on my hill, watching while the cities rise from the collapse that we left when the sun beat it down.